NBC 16 News at 5.
I'm ready to pull my officers out of there if the violence stops. Portland is unique. There's no other city like it right now that we see this violence at federal courthouses. We have no other teams like has been described here in any other city. It's just Portland.
Just hours ago, federal authorities announced they are not leaving, citing their duty to protect federal buildings in Portland. Last night, the crowd peacefully marched through the city's core, but eventually, demonstrators lit a fire in front of the federal courthouse and even tried to break in. Federal agents used tear gas multiple times to clear crowds. Portland police say they only responded to provide security for firefighters. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazer. Now, for weeks now, federal officers will have responded to violence at the federal courthouse. That's more than 50 days and no end in sight. Federal authorities say they arrested 7 people overnight, 2 charged with assault of a federal officer, the other 5 for misdemeanor charges like failure to comply or vandalism. Federal officers say they are legally allowed to be there, legally allowed to protect federal property, and legally allowed to arrest people committing crimes. Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf says they are targeting and arresting people they identify as those who are committing crimes, like trying to set the courthouse on fire or hurting their officers.
If you're looking to peacefully protest in Portland, the department respects your right to do so. Please do so away from the violent activity that's taking place near the courthouse on a nightly basis for your own safety. If you are a violent rioter looking to inflict damage to federal property or law enforcement officers, you need to find another line of work.
Wolf challenged local leaders to work with local law enforcement to address the nightly violence activity. Federal officials allege Portland leaders protected city buildings but stayed away if demonstrators targeted federal facilities. And federal leaders also addressed the incident involving a Navy veteran over the weekend. The Deputy Director of Operations for the Federal Protective Service says the DOJ Office of Inspector General is conducting an investigation into allegations of excessive force. The video of Chris David being beaten with a nightstick, then pepper sprayed by officers, has gone viral. He told us he had bruises all over his body and an injury to his hand that will require surgery. Taking a closer look now at our Facebook poll we told you about last night, we asked our viewers, do you support the presence of federal agents on the streets of Portland? Well, at last check, 47% say yes and 53% say no. The poll isn't over yet. You can still vote and comment on this question. We'll be sure to keep you updated with the results. The Springfield Police Department settling a lawsuit in a deadly shooting last year. The city will pay the family of Stacey Kenny $4.5 million. This result comes as the nation grapples with how to end police brutality, a cornerstone of the family's case against Springfield police. Kenny's family originally filed a $10 million wrongful death lawsuit. Kenny was shot and killed by officers after being stopped for a traffic incident. The focus of the case was to secure major cultural change for Springfield police. One lawyer representing the Kenny family describes the police department as a toxic warrior culture. In addition to the money, the settlement also requires the Springfield Police Department to revamp their policies to include de-escalation training.
They are hopeful that their lawsuit will bring change to their community, and maybe it can be used as a model for other communities. But they wanted to feel safe and welcome in their own community.
Training for officers will focus on how to use minimum force necessary. This means they will have to be more transparent, make policy changes, and provide yearly training on de-escalation. Park also says the state will use a portion of the awarded funds to run an independent oversight group to hold officers accountable. Both parties have 60 days to finalize paperwork to make it official.
The system has been in place for so long that the people don't really have control. It's all in the unions. It's all in the system.
It is as tough as I've seen it to be in this line of work. There's no question about that.
As the national debate on police reform continues, local law enforcement and advocates weigh in on what that might mean for the future. We're asking you to join us for a special report on both sides of the defund the police issue. It's part 1 of a 2-part reform on police reform tonight at 5:30 on NBC 16. Well, the Linn County Sheriff's Office rescued a man at Tamalich Falls Sunday evening. Deputies say Pavan Vemiletti was jumping off rock ledges and did not come back up for air for several minutes after his last jump. Deputies say Vemiletti was pulled to shore and flown to the hospital. He was released yesterday. Deputies say Blue Pool has become a popular attraction. They've responded to more than 10 rescues in the last 2 months at Tamalich Falls. A hiker died after falling from a mountain at Three Finger Jack Sunday afternoon. Linn County Sheriff's Office says 19-year-old Todd Edelman from Almsville fell hundreds of feet. Deputies say they found Edelman dead at the bottom of the cliff. Crews worked all night to carry him out. Well, our reporters are working to find out the current condition of 2 young children who deputies say were hit by a jet ski at Foster Lake and Sweet Home. The Linn County Sheriff's Office says a 23-year-old man lost control of the wave runner and hit a crowd of people who were swimming. We know both children who were hit are under the age of 10. 4 other people suffered minor injuries. We're told the man on the wave runner is cooperating with investigators. Firefighters are battling a fire near milepost 92 northbound on I-5 just south of Canyonville. This video was sent to us from an NBC 16 viewer, Grace Shadbolt. ODOT says the fire is on the east side of the I-5 about 1 mile north of the Canyon Creek Pass. Douglas Forest Protective Association says the fire has massive to 4 acres now. Crews and 4 helicopters are working to control the blaze. Drivers should expect delays. And at last check, crews made progress on the Day Creek Road fire overnight. Crews were able to complete fire line and install hose lays around the entire perimeter of the fire. DFPA says 115 crew members and 2 helicopters are working to get a direct containment line against the edge of the fire. The fire has reached roughly 35 acres now. Well, time now to take a first look at weather. Alan Matthews joins us now. Now, Alan, as you know, we just finished talking about the wildfires. So how is the wind factoring in all this?
Yeah, at least the good news for us is the winds weren't like we saw last week. We were getting gusts of 20, 30 miles per hour. In fact, the good news is that those winds are going to be calming down and those temperatures are also going to be dropping. It was another 90-degree day for both Eugene and Roseburg. 93 degrees right now in Eugene under a sunny sky, north wind at 9 and our humidity at 31%. Now, speaking about those future wind speeds, and as you take a look around the Roseburg Azalea area, we'll put this into motion. And as we get into the late evening hours, those wind speeds really die down, and they should continue that way for the first part of Wednesday morning. Maybe picking up a little bit. I don't know quite that strong. Maybe hitting 10 miles per hour. So that is some good news. But again, temperatures are also going to be dropping tomorrow as well. Not much to show you with the radar satellite as things were pretty calm tonight. And as we look ahead, those temperatures are dropping tomorrow. We will see a bit more cloud cover as well. We'll give you the full forecast coming up a little bit later on. Jacqueline?
All right, Alan, thank you very much. Well, taking a look at coronavirus numbers statewide, the Oregon Health Authority reports 299 new confirmed and presumptive cases and unfortunately 7 new deaths. The state has now seen more than 15,100 cases and 269 deaths. Multnomah reported the most cases today with 67 and has the most cases in the state with more than 3,600. Well, the temporary ban on evictions during the pandemic goes through September 30th, but it's important to know what will happen once that date arrives. If you're unable to pay rent because of the financial impact of COVID-19, you have until March 31st of next year to pay back what you owe. Tenant resource groups explain no late fees are applied during the 6-month grace period.
Between March and September, there are no late fees attached, and also during that time period, your non-payment of your rent cannot be reported to a consumer credit agency, so you won't take a hit on your credit.
A landlord can evict a tenant for non-payment after October 1st for rent that is due October or later, but not for deferred payments during the eviction moratorium. Now, coming up on NBC 16 News, our Lauren Negretti joins us in the studio with more facts that may be able to help you, including helpful resources in the community. Well, the closure of Pioneer Pacific College at the end of July resulted in 51 employees being laid off in Springfield. Most of those layoffs, adjunct instructors. The college's Human Resources Director, Sherry Baker, wrote a letter to Mayor Christine Lundberg saying, quote, statewide operational restrictions put in place by Governor Brown have resulted in a dramatic loss of business. Due to this pandemic, it is currently unknown when business will resume to normal. Meanwhile, campuses in Portland and Beaverton will also close. LTD buses will soon have clear barriers installed around drivers. It's going to be a phased approach over the next several weeks. The barriers are funded through the Federal CARES Act. The aim to help keep workers and riders safe during the pandemic.
The barriers are made of like a plexiglass type material so that the driver can see what's going on the bus. They also have easy access to passengers if they need help.
Lane Transit District is taking additional safety measures like extra cleaning, social distancing, and mask requirements. LTD says ridership is down about 65%. The agency cut dozens of jobs as revenue started tanking. Well, testing for the Latino community will be available in Eugene this Saturday. The free testing will be held at 1200 North Terry Street, starting at 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Lane County Public Health is asking people to bring their insurance cards, but the tests are free regardless of insurance status. The first 50 people will receive a small gift. Well, coming up next on NBC 16 at 5, the House approves a $740 billion defense bill. What that bill would do for troops and military bases. Plus, a grandson's desire to help his grandmother results in more than he ever thought possible. How he's giving back to the elderly.